All right, let's call the Special Regional Council meeting for December the 12th, 2022 to order, please. I'd like to acknowledge that the Northern Rockies Administration Center is located in the heart of the traditional territory of the Dene, Cree, Dunnizah peoples of the Fort Nelson and Prophet River First Nations. We further recognize the rights provided by our treaty. We finally celebrate the contributions and enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. Adoption of the agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Dickey, second by Councillor Souls, who right on my head, I'm sorry. Second by Councillor Souls. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. First order of business is a municipal overview presentation. It's a continuation of our November 28th meeting. I'll turn it over to staff.
Thanks, Mayor. We ended off, the last meeting was, well, we were starting with rec tonight or this evening. So we have Acting Director Stacy and then Director Harvey, who's in the process of coming back back to work, but from a graduate return perspective, be back full time or New Year. So be a bit of a tag team here because for many in the past couple of years have seen Stacy's face mostly in that role, and prior to that, Harbs, and moving forward, Harbs. So we said tag team the discussion, and we'll hand it over to those two, and let's start off. All yours, guys.
Thank you. 55. Oh. Yeah. So yeah, at recreation, we're kind of a blend between recreation services and then maintaining the facilities that support those services. So we do a little bit of programming and a lot of maintenance. We're run by a director who oversees our front desk staff, and then we have our facility operations, which covers our maintenance, janitorial, laborers that help provide services. And then we have an aquatics department, which runs the aquatic center and aquatic services, and our recreation program manager that runs the programs and events that take place in the community. The operations manager also oversees electricians. Yeah, we can go forward. So under recreation, our service areas, like I said, cover recreation, and then we maintain the parks and green spaces as well. So those are the neighborhood parks, the ones that are throughout the community, as well as a couple regional campgrounds. So Andy Bailey Regional Park, and the Tetsa River campground as well. And our programs cover a broad range of services, from the little ones all the way up to seniors programming and aquatic center. You guys are probably all familiar with our big, beautiful aquatic center, and everything that happens under that roof. Community events being the Canada Day, Easter event, Spookorama, teddy bear picnics, and some other family events that may pop up throughout the year. And then facilities maintenance, which it covers not only the recreation facilities, but the other municipal facilities as well, including town hall, and facilities maintenance at our various other facilities in the community. So the rec center itself has a community hall and kitchen, NHL-sized ice surfaces, so 2 of those, plus the leisure ice pond, the curling rink in addition to that, and the curling lounge. Yeah, we also house the visitor information center, 11 full-size dressing rooms for the arenas, with skaters lobby and other lobbies to service the facility, and then meeting rooms and activity rooms to also provide programming in. Art Fraser Park being kind of the community's hub park, that's had a lot of work done in the last 10 years or so to make it what it is now. Always continuously improving there as well. Neighborhood parks include, there's a park at the old Aquatic Center, Bob Price. There's one in Gardner, Klondike, Cottonwood, Gary Giffen, as well as the Musqueam Heights Park, and then Mile 301 just up the hill. Pocket parks are all along the 50th North. That kind of are part of the connectivity through the community, and then connects from rec to the community and neighborhood parks. Regional campgrounds, again, like I mentioned, Andy Bailey and Tets River. We also, in conjunction with the Public Works Department, do work along the community trail to keep that maintained. We also work with Rec Sites and Trails BC to provide services at the Demo Forest, and HME Hill for our winter programming. So our programs and events, there's multiple different service provision platforms we kind of use. We utilize contractor provided services for our fitness. We have drop-in programs that include pickleball, basketball, and then we also utilize the schools for some drop-in volleyball, a few other services like that, but that's dependent on volunteer services. We do our day camps, which include our summer fun program that runs all through the summer. Registered youth and adult programs, like I said, cover a wide range of services from TOTS, like our Parent and Tot program that happens, to one of our newer programs being the seniors social, the track social, which has seen quite a good turnout. We've been pretty happy with that program too. Active events. So we've recently taken up helping to provide the triathlon. So and as well as our annual fun run. Those fall under our active events, and family events like the Teddy Bear Picnic. And then our trade show, craft fairs. So that's mostly just the craft fair around Christmas time. Hopefully this year. Yes, hopefully. It's a beautiful picture. Yeah, so our aquatic center operations, as you see, that's a pretty big facility, so it does require quite a few hands on deck, so to speak, to keep everybody safe swimming in there. So, and then we, manning provided, we are able to provide aquatics events as well. So we do movies for a special event, so the dive-in theater, they call it. And that kind of happens on a seasonal basis. And then our lessons and instructional programs that happen, again, provided the manpower to provide them.
Okay, just in case anybody thought I was just going to sit here. I'll take over now for Stacy. Facility maintenance is one of the things that keeps that beautiful pool beautiful. So when you go in there, the work that goes in the 2 mechanical rooms takes a lot of time, effort, and money to keep going. Of course, meeting all the regulations for both Northern Health and any other governing bodies that have jurisdiction over those facilities. So we have an electrical department that looks after the whole municipality, from the airport into here, into our water plant. It's driven through recreation, but they go everywhere. And I think Michael got his 15-year award the other night. He was the first full-time electrician we had here. Before that, it was just a piecemeal from companies in town. But now that we have that, the knowledge we retain for our building maintenance is huge. And they can pass that on to the newer people as they come along, of course. We have our HVAC systems and our DDC system over at the rec center, which everything is driven through that. So if you look at the utility bills over the years, the prices always go up, but we try to keep everything down by making efficiencies as much as we can. Again, Stacy has a lighting project this year that'll help with the energy consumption into 2023 once it's finished. And we've seen with the lighting upgrades in the arenas how much that saved us over time. I think in 2015, we started out with a budget of 750,000, and now we're in the mid 550 range. We're getting close to the end of where we can try to save every dollar. But then again, as time changes and things get more efficient, we will replace that with items that will help us do even better. So you mightn't see quite the savings every year, but we still will strive to do that. HVAC system for Town Square, of course, we're really struggling with that one right now, folks. It's a daily thing. But on a brighter note, the newest 2 units went in 2011 over the library, and everything before that's got quite a number of years on them. So we're doing well. It's just colder at points in the day sometimes. Excuse me.
It can be dirty.
So ammonia is a big component to what we do over at the rec center and driving out our ammonia safety plan. Jonathan Roberts and Tom Fish were big and instrumental in getting our program. We've now have one of the younger staff members involved in that as the chief while John's away, and he is doing a great job. So that's great to see that our staff that are coming up are taking that information, and succession planning will come into play here. So as we go, and we won't need to keep seeking outside help. So that's a big one for us as well. Inspection programs, emergency lights, fire extinguishers and such, all runs through our program. And airport does their own extinguishers, but sends us the information so that we can keep everything in one place. So if we ever do have anybody coming looking for that information, it's here and we can just lay it out when all these inspections are done. Maintenance of other municipal facilities. We do help, we are the maintenance team for the Town Square. We do help other groups as well, other departments with activities. If Public Works needs a hand, we will help those as well, just the same as they always help us. And then, of course, the instrument support, which we talked about between the 2 electricians earlier. Our maintenance program is very big and proactive for the most part. Councillor Roper might disagree right now with the heating that he's receiving, but they are, they are, but yeah.
Once you get popping, things warm up.
That's what David said when he came over. Yeah. So all those people, and plus the maintenance team is also in the arena, looking after the skaters and such too. So yeah, and security and everything else that they do. So that's our facility maintenance piece. So some numbers over the last couple of years. Of course, our 2019 numbers would be everything pre-COVID. 2020 in March when COVID hit and we essentially shut down for, I think, the first 6 months for sure. Then 2021, we had gradual openings in some areas with limits on the number of people that we could bring into the facility. One thing that you really notice in 2022 is because the walking track was one of the few things that we had running, more and more people are utilizing that now. So that's a great thing to see as well. Because of it was lower numbers in the beginning, but now with the uptake, it's good just to have that number of people going into the building so we can get back over to that 200,000 level we used to see in 2018, 2019. I think for the most part, I think the climbing wall is just doing very well again this year. In 2021, it was one of the few things that we could do because climbing, of course, you're up a wall by yourself. So it helped for the COVID piece for sure. And yeah, birthday parties and that haven't come back yet. But again, it's one of those things people getting used to coming back into the building. But I think last weekend we had 3. So that was kind of big just on one weekend.
We want to talk about how we measure.
Our
Oh.
patron counters, yes. So the in the door patron counting happens with some fairly sophisticated cameras that I think they were designed by NASA. Some of the technologies, anyways, and they're also used by the Smithsonian Institute, and they're infrared plus motion tracking, so they track the ins and outs because they can tell the directional traffic as well as heat mapping. So it's a nice, accurate, or not spot on, but accurate information for how many people are through the doors.
And it does pick up a group as well. So if a group of 4 went through, it would pick up those 4 people, not just the one count of me.
Does it pick up?
Does it pick up individuals? Like, so it knows you've gone in, so if you've gone in and out 3 or 4 times, it knows it's you?
No.
Or does it count, it counts it 3 times?
Yeah. The reason back in the day doing it was at the time, of course, with the size of the facility and the increase in the size of the facility, increased capacity to look after the facility. A lot of focus on the facility was on programs or how many people are on the ice or whatnot, and not necessarily how often the facility is utilized and frequented by people. And it doesn't make a difference if 10 people walk through the door or one person walks through there 10 times, they're still bringing the same amount of sand and salt and debris and dirt and whatnot and utilizing that facility and wear and tear in the facility. So it wasn't a very expensive system, but what it did is it just gave an indication of how often that facility is used and the amount, and it kind of supports also the amount of capacity required to maintain the facility. And you know, there's only so many people in the community, but when you look at the amount of feet that walk through that door in the run of a weekend or a week, or year to date, you start pushing 100,000. 2019 was close to 200,000 patrons through the doors. Many of which were repeat customers, of course, but it just demonstrates the amount of use that facility gets.
And with that many number of people coming through there, we are required within 24 hours for the cleaning of all the toilets and the cleaning of the sinks at least once a day. And at 75 toilets, over 50 sinks, and I think 18 urinals. We have to touch pretty much all of them every day in order to stay inside those Northern Health guidelines. Okay, let's move this one up. So as I just mentioned about the pandemic hitting, we are starting to see those increases in patrons in some areas right now. So that's a good thing. Lifeguard staff, lifeguards are a challenge no matter where you go. Everybody's short lifeguards. We do have the benefit of having the lifeguard program. We started with the help of the previous programs manager and the aquatic coordinator back probably in 2015, 2016, I'm thinking, where we went into the high schools and got the interest from the grade 11s and 12s to take part in that program, and they would get school credits. At the end of a semester, they would then become certified lifeguards, which would not only help them to get a job possibly with us, but when they went to post-secondary, they could also go to work at the universities in the pool as well, which a lot of our People did leave and go and come back and go and come back, but it was a lifeguard everywhere. So that's a great, we lost it for a couple of years, but it's just came back this year, which is great to see. And we will make sure that that keeps running as we go forward.
Yeah, our first group from 2022 will be completing their lifeguard school program here at the end of January. So we're hoping to see some potential new recruits coming February.
And one of the first lifeguards that graduated from that program is now our chief engineer inside the ACE plant, which just shows you how they transition through and then work through. It's pretty amazing, yeah. Accessibility improvement projects underway and stuff done in 2022. Stacy has some more projects in mind for Regional Park Andy Bailey, which is a park that gets used a lot by families, and it's a great place to go. Sorry, I shouldn't have looked at him for one. No, I lost it. Want to take over for them? I had nothing. It was, but then yes, it's not another
No,
case.
we did find in the course of our project that it could see some significant improvements to improve it even further than the usage that we currently get, which is fairly significant as well. And the more we can focus on making things more accessible, the better. I think so. Yeah. That was a successful project in conjunction with the planning department. So some looking forward to working further with them. And our, as Harvey mentioned earlier, projects such as the lighting upgrades, we like to continue looking wherever possible to improve efficiencies for our energy consumption. And yeah, I think Harvey covered a lot.
Yeah,
of that
no,
already.
and we've done a number of upgrades over the past probably 4 or 5 years to help us. Just each year we try to take a section and improve that. It helps with security, lighting in the building, and energy use. So it helps us in several different ways.
And yeah, and hopefully working towards in 2023 more work to develop the Parks and Community Facilities bylaw. So that's an upcoming tidbit, hopefully with feedback from council. Yeah. Questions?
I just want to add something.
Yeah.
So if you have never had a tour of the underbelly of the rec center, like you have to go. You have to go. And I don't know, like I went with Jonathan Roberts. I try to go every year because you always learn something new. Jonathan, I know he's on leave, and I'm sure y'all do a wonderful job too, but we also have, but for sure, have the tour because like it's just totally amazing to see the inner workings.
There's lots that most people don't see and don't realize that it's happening underneath your feet.
Yeah, and in regard to tours, I was gonna bring up towards the end, but since it's on the topic, I mean, for any facilities, if you want to see any facilities tours or any of the operations, or understand the water network, the sewer network, water treatment plant, whatnot. Airport's another neat one, especially when you go into the basement of the airport and look at the 4-foot thick walls in the basement of the terminal building. Just let me know, we'll arrange it. For if you want to see it all, we can arrange that, or bits and pieces and snippets, and we'll arrange it with the director to take you around and get Johnny lined up over at rec to take the rec facility and stuff. So
Shoot for later in January.
Johnny's on for the month of December. Yes.
I'll certainly take you up on that for sure. I'd like to really have a look around.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I heard first this time. Wait all night.
I was thinking no.
So next up is our fire chief, James Childs, to speak to the fire rescue. and bylaw enforcement.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council, for inviting me over for this. So I'm just here basically to give an overview of your Northern Rockies Fire Rescue Department. As you see, we have one director who's the fire chief, which is myself. We have a deputy fire chief, Hayward Shepherd, and the fire chief, the deputy fire chief, and the building inspector. We act upon and we do bylaw services for the municipality as well. So we do noise complaints, unsightly property complaints, stuff like that. Right now, we're doing animal control as well, and hopefully here in the next week or so, that'll be handed over to contractors. So with the two fire officers, we have 6 career firefighters. They're IFF career professional firefighters. We have a fire service assistant who is also a dispatcher for fire and bylaw. And with that, we have from 12 to 20 paid on calls. COVID has not been very good on our paid on call ranks. So we've lost quite a few of our senior paid on calls through COVID, but we're running recruit classes. We're on our second recruit class of 6 right now. So we'll get our numbers up here in the next by summer. That's the goal. So that's your the overview of the department when it comes to staffing. And we have a company that we call Company C. They're our support staff. They come out and they answer the phones on the weekends, evenings, if our fire service assistant and dispatcher is not available. They also will bring food and stuff to the fire emergency scene if we require any additional supplies. So next slide. So our operations is we do structural firefighting, we do vehicles, we do air crash fire rescue for the Northern Rockies Regional Airport, we do wildland interface, and we do hazardous materials and stuff like that. We also do false alarms, and we do different calls to the hotels, the schools, all public buildings when it comes to like their fire alarms or sprinkler alarms going off, stuff like that. We also do motor vehicle rescue calls. We do water rescue. We're swift water technicians. We do high angle, low angle, and embankment rescue. We're all techs in that. And we also have a rescue team that are trained to NFPA 2006, and when it comes to rescue and stuff like that. For hazardous materials, our department, we have 3 hazmat techs and 1 hazmat incident commander, and then the rest of the department is hazmat ops trained. So we do respond to any hazardous materials calls within the area. And we do, for the fire commissioner's office, we do all fire investigations for them and the municipality. And we do pre-incident planning, and we do fire and life safety inspections for all public buildings within the municipality. We're really big on public education and community events. So you'll see us out to all the schools doing public education. We do fire extinguisher training for all companies in the area. We're really big when it comes to public education. We do open houses for the community to come into the fire hall, see the equipment, meet the firefighters. We do fire prevention week. We do burn awareness week. We do all kinds of different functions throughout the year when it comes to public education. We just did a huge program, fire alarm or smoke detector and CO alarm and detector program in the municipality. We did all kinds of seniors homes in the town, and we did Fort Nelson First Nations. We spent probably 3 months doing that program to all the senior community members. We used to be a first responder level 3 fire department when it comes to a medical responder and responding with BCHS. I'm proud to say that all the career staff are now EMR trained. We just completed our training. I think the last exam was 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. So everybody's certified EMR. So we run medical response with BCHS, and everybody's really happy and stoked to get out there and do all the new skills that they've been drilling for the last 3 months. So So that's going to be a huge help when it comes to BCHS calls and assist in public calls when it comes to medical and stuff like that. And we do public assist response. So any public service calls, we go out and we do investigations for the public or answer any life safety health questions that they may require us to answer. And we also do all fire response to the mills and industrial area south of town, like BC Hydro, the LNG plant, and the gas plant. That's that. Any questions yet?
Right?
So you say that, I'm assuming it's all paid firefighters that are EMS trained, right? Or EMR trained. What
Nope.
about the paid on call?
We offered it to the paid on calls and one was available to do the training and he did do his training and he passed and yeah, he's actually a part-timer with BC EHS right now. So it's a huge commitment. It's we did a bridge because we already had 2 weeks worth of first responder training. So we only had to do another 2 weeks of EMR training to catch up. So, but for those that are not, don't have any medical background, it would have took more of a commitment out of them and just, it was hard to get with the time frame we had. So,
Okay. Thanks.
but we do have an in-house first responder instructor who's running a course here in March for the paid on calls. And that's going to be a 2-week program as well.
Okay.
They require that for their NFPA 1001 level 2 training. So, and we do that in-house.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I just want to get my head wrapped around the numbers, if you don't mind, Chief.
Yep.
So 8 full-time, 6 on call?
So we have 6 full-time firefighters and the 2 fire chiefs, the deputy chief and the fire chief.
Right, and 12 to 20 paid on call. That doesn't include the 8 of you.
No,
To
that's,
20,
we
that's
have paid
12
on
to
calls.
20.
We don't have volunteers. We have paid on calls. Right now, I believe our number is at 12. We just hired 6 more. And once they pass their 3 months probationary training and they move to the regular Tuesday night training, we're doing another hire of 6. So we want to get our numbers to 20 to 25.
Right.
But we did lose
That'll
some.
put you to 18 once they're through and then another.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, assistants to the fire commissioner, how many, have you got any appointments there?
So we have 3 assistants to the fire commissioner and they follow under my badge. And then we have 2 more that are sworn members and they have badges.
Okay.
And then the rest of the career staff all do basic life safety inspections.
Right. Okay, and you are EMR trained, but still no transport.
No transport, no. We're just EMR trained.
Thank you.
So your fire department, they provide a 24-hour emergency service to a wide response area. So we have a really big response area, which in the next slide we'll get into our 3 different boundaries. So the fire hall is staffed 24/7 by Monday to Friday. If nobody's on holidays, you'll have 2 career guys on day shift. And then in the evenings from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll have 1 career guy on duty. And then same thing on the weekends. If nobody's on holidays, you'll have 2 day shift and 1 night shift. If somebody's on holidays, our 2 relief guys, one of them will fall back and cover that shift that is on holidays or anything like that. And like I said in the other slide, we do fire prevention inspections to all the public buildings in the municipality. So we go to Toad River, we do Toad River School. We go to Prophet River, we do Prophet River School. We've been working with Fort Nelson First Nations forever, and we have such a really good working relationship with them. And we were one of the first departments to provide fire service and with partnership with a First Nations. So we're really proud of that, and it works really, really well. And all the public buildings in town, all the hotels, schools, everything like that, we enforce the BC Fire Code when it comes to any code and the building and BC Building Code as well. And like I said, we have a huge public education program where we run different programs through the year with all age groups and all specialty groups in town. We do Girl Guides, stuff like that. They just reach out to the department. We do education with them, stuff like that. And we also do fire law enforcement. Like I said, COVID wasn't nice to us during our COVID there. We did lose some of our senior paid on calls and then through time commitments and I meant, when the world shut down, we had to keep operating. So we had to really reel back people just coming to the fire hall and hanging out unless they were on shift. So if you weren't working, you weren't there. We had to go to a tiered system when we called out our fire crews. And same thing, the career guys, if they weren't working, they weren't allowed at the hall. We really wanted to limit the exposure. And we had to, well, not only us, but same with other department, we had to shut down our training and go to online training. And a lot of some of our senior members didn't enjoy that well, so they just stepped aside. But super proud to commend the guys in the municipality that we went the whole COVID without getting knocked down. While there was departments around us and south of us, they didn't know how they were going to respond because they had so many members out sick. And I think we had a bunch of close calls. Don't get me wrong there. We had a lot of close calls, but we went through the whole COVID until I think the last week of this year, something like that, before we had one member have COVID. So we did shut her down. We were pretty strict when it came to who can show up at fire calls and when they can and stuff like that. It worked. Like, we didn't have to cut back on any services to the public. And like I said, there's no other fire department near us. It's just Northern Rockies Fire Rescue. The closest one would be if you went to Watson Lake. They have a volunteer fire hall there. And then Fort St. John, we call Fort St. John a big brother. We run highway rescues with Fort St. John. We meet each other. So we have a great working relationship with Fort St. John Fire Rescue. And we use them as our big brother. Other than that, the BC Wild Service at the airport, we work with them quite a bit. We cross-train with each other, and we run calls when it comes to the forestry fire season and stuff. So we have a good working relationship with them. But outside of that, it's just your Northern Rockies Fire Rescue firefighters, and we have super great relationships with the local BCHS department and the RCMP. We work really close with each other. We lean on each other when it comes to different emergency events that we attend and work on. So I think that's it on that one. As I said, we have 3 boundaries. If you could see the blue boundary in the center there, that'll be the fire protection area. So that'll be Gross Trail, mile 312, and then all the way out past to the LNG plant. And that includes the airport, Fort Nelson First Nations, a small section of McConaughey Creek. And as you go up over the Radar Road and the golf course and you go down into Radar Crescent, they're in our fire protection area as well. So that blue area is our fire protection boundary. The gold that highlights outside of that fire protection area, used to be our first responder area. Now it's going to, I guess, be our EMR area. So all medical calls, we will respond in that area. And that goes to mile 317, the Liard Highway. It'll go to Andy Bailey, the regional park, and it'll do the whole loop of McConaughey Creek. And there have been times where BCHS has reached out to us because they're short staffed for us to supply a driver or attend a call that they're going to be delayed on. We have sent 1 or 2 firefighters to back them up. So whoever's in trouble outside of our first responder area does get medical aid. So we have done that from time to time. It hasn't happened a lot where it's been outside of our first responder area, but it has happened.
And that's in our vehicle or their vehicle?
If they want a driver, we drive their ambulance.
Right.
Yeah. As we get through the apparatus, I'll explain which one is our first responder medical vehicle and stuff like that.
Okay.
Now you see the big red line. That is our highway rescue and response area for all rescues. So it's roughly 15% of the province. It does go outside of the municipal area. Once you go to Prophet River, we continue into the center of Sickeney Bridge. Fort St. John leaves Fort St. John and they come to the center of the bridge. A lot of the time, especially with GPS, they're not that accurate. They'll give us a location and it'll either be on their side or our side. That's when we do meet and work together because we both roll because we don't know where it's at. So there a couple months ago when we had that tanker incident, both Fort St. John and Northern Rockies Fire Rescue worked that call. So that area we will go to we will dip into the Yukon border and back into the BC border if Watson Lake is not sending anybody down. Other than that, we will go. And we go right to the Alberta border on all the oil and gas roads. We basically, this is the same area that your Northern Rockies RCMP respond to, and the local BCHS respond to the same rescue area. Outside of that, if we don't respond, nobody's going. So it is a huge area, but and when I get into the stats, I'll give you a breakdown on how many rescue calls we run on the highway and stuff like that. Any question on the boundaries? Okay, for apparatus. Council has been really good to Northern Rocks Fire Rescue. We have top-notch equipment. We have top-notch apparatus. Like we have really, really good equipment when it comes to being able to do the job that we're required to do. So our Pumper One is called Pumper One. It's a pumper / water tender. We acquired it in 2020. It's a Spartan. It carries 3,000 gallons of water, and it has a compressed air foam system of Class A and Class B foam. This thing is very impressive when it comes to fighting fire. It's changed how we respond and how quickly we can knock down fires now with this piece of apparatus. It's I was a little hesitant on CAFs because it's one of those new technologies you know nothing about until you get it, and you're like, wow, I can't believe every department doesn't have one of these. They're very, very good piece of equipment. So Pumper One is backed up by Engine One. It's a pumper truck. It is 21 years old. It's up there in service life. It's a Freightliner. It carries 1,350 gallons of water, and it carries a 50-gallon foam cell. Engine Two is a reserve pumper. It's currently parked at the airport right now, and it's 20 years old. It's a Freightliner. It carries 900 gallons of water, and it also carries a 25-gallon foam cell. Squad One, which is also our mini pumper, and it responds to all the medical calls that we get called to assist with BCHS. It's 2 years old. It's on a F550 chassis, so it's a nice little truck. It carries 300 gallons of water, and it carries 25 gallons of Class B foam, and it is a compressed air foam system as well. So we went with that system as well. So our rescue truck, which is a heavy rescue truck, it's a rescue / command vehicle. So it does get called out to all of our work instruction fires in the municipality, in our fire protection area, because we use it as command vehicle and rehab our firefighters. It's 11 years old. It's on a Spartan Gladiator chassis. It carries 60 gallons of water with foam, and it's also a compressed air foam system on that. So we have the capability of extinguishing vehicle fires up and down the highway if required. And then we have our ladder truck. It's called Quint One. It's 25 years old. It's a 75-foot Quint, so it has a ladder and a fire pump. So it does the job of a pumper and a ladder truck. That's why they call them Quints. It carries 350 gallons of water, and it has 50 gallons of foam. So out of all these trucks, our pumper can pump. The pumping capacity of our pumper is 1,500 gallons per minute. Engine One is 1050 per minute. Engine Two is 1050 per minute. Squad One is 1,500 per minute. So our squad truck has a bigger pump than our two previous fire engines, just to give you a little comparison. And our Quint truck is 1,250 gallons per minute. Any questions on the apparatus? With the apparatus, we also have two command vehicles. There are two F5 350s. They have the canopies on them. They carry all our command trays and incident accountability boards that we require to run incident command at different emergencies. And we have a utility pickup truck. It's 1 ton. Summertime, it has a skid in it for forestry firefighting. Wintertime, it's mostly a utility and the on-call firefighters standby vehicle.
So Chief, you have extensions on Engine One and Engine Two, time extensions?
So it'll be introduced in the budget this year, I believe, Quint. And then to be hopefully replaced in 2024. I think that's the plan right now. Yeah. And then after that would be going after replacing engine 1, and then engine 1 would become a reserve pumper, and then engine 2 would get sold. That'd be the rough plan right now.
Okay, but they do have an extension on them.
Yes.
Certification to be extension,
Yeah.
so you did
Um,
bumper test, etc.
Yeah, we do apparatus pump test to get certified every year on all of our equipment. Same with our Quint, it gets ladder tested to make sure it keeps its certifications. Engine 2 required some work a couple years ago, so it had to have its pump rebuilt, and it failed its pump test. The pump's rebuilt and it's passed ever since. So this year we had 0 issues with any of our trucks when it came to getting certification. So, yep.
Thank you.
Every year they get tested and certified.
Just from a fire underwriter study perspective, I think after 25 years after the extensions, I think it's that when you get 0 credit, I believe, from the fire. Is that right, James?
Yep. So once the apparatus hits 15 years, you start losing credits on your fire underwriters insurance grading. And then 20 years, you lose more credits. And then once I'm pretty sure I can get the definite answer, but once it hits 25, you get 0 credits. We went from I've been bragging about it so much, I forget. We went from a fuss grade of 7 to 4. Yeah. So with the addition to a lot of the training we've been hitting here lately, and the 2 replacements of engine 3 and engine 2, and getting pumper 1 and squad 1, we drove our fuss rating down to a 4. So huge, and that basically that gives tax or insurance breaks to the taxpayer when it comes to fire insurance and stuff like that.
Yeah, the insurance rates for property insurance are determined by a formula that your fire underwriter study or the FUS study provides. Right? So the lower the number as a fire department for the FUS study, the better from insurance perspective for coverage for property insurance within the fire protection area.
Yeah, I think right now we're pretty well. We might get 1 more grade under, but I don't think we'll ever get to the 2 and 1s. You would need like 2 or 3 ladder trucks and 2 fire hauls.
Yeah, it gets a little bit
Yeah.
crazy, for sure. And it's not just at the fire department. Our distribution system also is part of that fire underwriter study. The hydrants, the flow tests, the maintenance program, all that also gets inspected and whatnot as part of that program.
Yeah, training, how many firefighters you
Everything.
have, how many officers you have, what type of training the officers have, all that comes into consideration.
So yeah, we were really proud. We worked really hard. We did the original FUS study. We had them come in. They tore us apart. They gave us the grade of I want to say it was a 6. And then we worked and built to. They just did the update. I think it was January, and they give us a 4. So it was good. Call volumes. I don't know if you can see that very well. So this was to November 23rd. I can't see my paper, so I'm going to look at the Yeah. In my defense, it's pretty small. Okay, so we broke this down into our types of calls that we respond to throughout the year. So you have your actual fires. So we get called and something's on fire and we actually have to extinguish the fire. Then you have your false alarms, like bells ringing at a hotel or an apartment. Investigations are myself and some of the other guys going out and actually doing cause and determination of a fire. First responder will be our medical calls, rescues and MVIs. So because we do high angle rescue, rope rescue, motor vehicle rescue, and swift water rescue, we have rescues will take up all that part. MVIs will do the MVIs. So our hazardous materials calls, public service calls to the public, city assist calls. So if we ever had to do a assist public works call, RCMP assist calls. We just got 2 members of our department certified under the JIBC associate certificate program for trauma and critical incident stress. So we have we're slowly built. We have 4 more members that are into the training. They're just not done yet. So we'll have a trauma and critical incident stress team for the members of all first responders like BCHS, fire rescue, police, but also to the public. We've done a lot of defusings and briefings with members of our public after they've dealt with a traumatic event. So we've opened that team up to all the members of our municipality. It's something that's really needed up here. And the members that are on that team are it's a passion of theirs. So, and let's face it, we need it. Mental wellness is such a hard thing right now. And then burn is basically burn complaints. And then we have the total. So for the total of this year to date, actual fires, we've done actual 23 fires. We've done 40 false alarms. We've done 6 investigations. We've done 203 medical calls, 46 rescue calls, 29 hazmat calls, 61 assist the public calls, 2 city calls, 8 RCMP assist. We've done 3 critical incident stress with the public, and we've done 24 burn complaints. So in November the 23rd, we had a total of 440 calls for the year. Today, we're at 478 calls. Any questions on the call volume?
I'm interested in what you define as hazmat. 29, that's a lot of hazardous materials response. Is that like gas station spills, or is that much bigger than that?
So we have gas station spills. We've had gas lines dug up, like Fortis gas lines.
Yeah.
We've had buildings that collapse and their gas lines have let go. We've done we've done, I think, 5 or 6 gas spills at gas stations.
Yeah.
From time to time, we do a lot of carbon monoxide calls for the public, especially in the wintertime. Furnace is not working properly. And the majority of those require the homeowner to get servicing done, or they're slowly poisoning themselves. So we get a fair bit of those calls. And we get the unknown calls because we have such a heavy traffic of heavy equipment that goes north. And anytime they're in an accident or they get a leak, we get called to investigate it or to mitigate the leak that they're having and stuff like that.
Good. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else for stats? I think that. Okay. So to continue delivering the service we provide, like I said, council has been really, really good for us. We've been training our firefighters, career and paid on calls. We're one department. There's no such thing as a paid on call and a career guy. We are one department. We've always been that way. We're really proud of that. Our career staff and our paid on calls, we're the same uniform. The biggest difference is a lot of times the paid on calls have 2 or 3 jobs where we have the one job. So we strive to train to never get it wrong. We're not happy of just training to get it right. We want to never get it wrong. So we do weekend trainings when required. We do Tuesday night mandatory trainings for all the staff, and our guys, they drill during their shifts at the hall and stuff like that. So and as I said, COVID wasn't very well with us, but not only COVID, but I mean, every department in North America is facing a huge struggle retaining and recruiting paid on calls or volunteers. So we've been hitting that really hard. Like I said, we did hire 6, and we're hoping that once we have 2 more months with this group, once they're done their basic training, and we can bring them on to a Tuesday night training with the other staff, we're hoping that we can hire another 6 right away to get those numbers up. I think it's an eye opener when people want to volunteer to the community and they realize all the rules and regulations that we have to make sure that we follow to ensure that they're properly trained to just attend a vehicle in the ditch call. Like, there's so much rules and regulations that we need to make sure everybody's trained to attend. So, and like I said, our first responder medical calls, they have gone up quite a bit this year, about 60 to 70% from last year. So, we have a really good working relationship with the local PCHS department. So, and all of our career firefighters and one paid on call is EMR trained. So it was an eye opener for a lot of the guys. It was some hard training for a lot of the guys, but they stuck through it. They dug through it, and they got the certification. So very proud of them on that. And your two chief officers did the training as well. We respond to medical calls with the guys. So. And we added Sunday training, the third Sunday of every month, dedicated to rescue training. So we'll do motor vehicle rescues. We'll do rope rescue training, some hazardous materials, ARF rescue, airport rescue training, stuff like that. It's too hard to try and make sure that you do the maintenance training on the training that we have today on a Tuesday night for 2 hours. We had to split it up where we bought in an extra training day just to do the maintenance training and to keep going with current trainings. That's pretty well here. Any questions?
Questions for the chief?
I could probably speak here all day when it comes to the
Yeah.
fire department. So
It's not just a matter of putting the wet stuff on the red stuff.
No, it's
anymore.
not. It is not.
There's lots of
There's-
rules.
you have to know math and science, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I never believed my teachers
I think one of the,
until I was in my first pumping course. I'm like, oh, I need math.
one of the interesting challenges you see with the map is how quickly our resources could get depleted with the required services with the services we provide. We don't, James mentioned, or Chief mentioned, we don't have because of location or geographic location, we don't have a mutual aid agreement with other organizations because of the distance compared to, City of Fort St. John, Taylor, Charlie Lake, Dawson Creek all have various mutual aid agreements to help each other out. Obviously, I mean, as you've mentioned, James, City of Fort St. John has helped us out in the past, especially when we had an incident a number of years ago where they came and backfilled and assisted. But in terms of just relying on from day-to-day operations or whatnot, things can get thin fairly quick. And that's why we have a really good relationship too with the other agencies, because all the agencies are in the same boat, the RCMP, BCHS, and Fire Rescue. When it comes to the large area, very quickly you can get thinned out fairly quickly when you're responding to incidents. So we have a very good relationship with those agencies. Because we say, when stuff goes sideways, well, no one's coming for right away anyway. So monthly we meet as an emergency services group and share stories and tales and options and opportunities and plan for potential events. I mean, we don't look forward to April coming this year or May with the way we went to the fall, for example, because we know we have the potential around wildfire and it impacts the community, but the emergency services piece and all of them.
Yeah, it's
Happen quick.
it's no secret. We did have 3 line of duty deaths in our department. So a lot of the guys, when they do dedicate themselves to the training and to the updated equipment that council has bought us, it's gone a long way. So, and Fort St. John has bailed us out 3 times. So they've sent an engine and a company up to work with us. We still ran calls with them, but we could actually go back to the hall, shut down for a minute before we had to go to another call, and they just backfilled, and it helped the department quite a bit.
Are you able to do most of the training in-house? So you've got certified trainers who are training the rest of them, so you don't have to go outside much.
No, so we have for our NFPA 10,001, the firefighter 1 and 2, we have 2 fire service instructors so it's myself and the deputy fire chief. We use College of the Rockies for all of our firefighter training. And we do the written and the job performance reviews on all of our staff. They will send an instructor up from time to time if we need to be audited to make sure we're doing what we're required to be doing, which is, I 100% agree on that. And if we're doing a specialty course, so like an example, you'll see it in our budget coming up, we're asking the NFPA has changed the new standard. Now, we used to be IFSTA 6, now we're all IFSTA 7, so we're training to a new standard, a more updated standard. And the majority of our rescue team has the older standard when it comes to Auto X training. We want to bring in the new standard, get them certified in the new standard. So we'll bring third parties in for those courses along.
Special ed training.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing with our water rescue, high angle rescue. We bring in a third party.
I guess the last question I have is about, and this might be to Aaron, maybe, when it comes to provincial funding. So when are we applying for some, external funds to help with some of these rescues? Is that all funded by us, or once we get outside a certain boundary, then we're able to get, reimbursed by the province for some of this?
So that'd be like our rescue.
Yeah.
We get task numbers.
Yes, when there's outside of our boundary, the
So
province
outside of the
makes
fire protection.
outside the
boundary.
fire protection. So the rescues that James talks about up the highway, if it's NBIs or whatnot, that's tasked by the province.
Okay.
So usually another agency requests additional resources, whatever it might be, and then we're tasked by the province. The province provides a task number, and then we charge back to that task number or rate, which is predetermined, obviously, by the province, but depending on.
Can be anywhere from 30,000 to 50,000 a year we get back from the province. So
Does it cover our costs?
with today's fuel prices,
The actual.
Here's another lobby
it
opportunity.
helps.
Fuel prices, barring fuel prices where they are today, the actual incident you would suggest a cost, and you pay for the apparatus. When you look at the bigger picture, right? But then the argument is you need the apparatus anyway to provide the service locally. But if you look at the rescue truck, for example, the rescue truck makes a lot of trips up the highway. It's a very sophisticated piece of equipment. It's very expensive, $1 million plus, and it gets a lot of highway miles on it. When you factor all that in, the answer is no. It doesn't.
But it saved a lot of lives.
Yeah.
A lot of lives because it's middle of nowhere. You could be 3 hours, in middle of nowhere. And it's saved a lot of lives. It's a good program. And I had an email today that we might be getting some more money back for our rescue call this year. I haven't had a chance to follow up, so I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if they increase the past numbers or.
I'll just add to that the rescue truck, when we designed and procured it, it was designed specifically for those highway rescues. So it will help not only, with the rescues, but it will also maintain the staff. So it's got all of the equipment inside of it to maintain our staff and to keep them safe because they could be up there for 8, 9, 10 hours.
Yeah, that truck has gone up north and we've been there 8 or 9 or 10 hours. It does have a fridge on it. It has a coffee maker, a microwave, and we do carry food on the truck because when you're in the middle of nowhere and the guys got to eat. So, and not only that, we'll feed RCMP and BCHS as well.
Because it's hard to eat in front of them when they're hungry.
It's not that hard.
Councilor Fairway, did I see that you had another question?
Not a question, just a comment. I'm just really heartened to hear how the investment in that equipment has made a difference in the lives of our firefighters and first responders. It was a hard decision, but it was an easy decision, right? It was a lot of money, but like we were all saying is nobody's coming to save us. We've got to take care of ourselves. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really heartened at that. And then the first responder program that just like brings a little tear to my eye. I'm sorry that there was 203 calls that were needed, but I'm grateful that you all were there. So thank you.
No, thank you. Oh, trust me. They all love it. We all love running those calls. So we're here to help. No, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. And that concludes the municipal overview, Mayor. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to tours, fire hall, fire apparatus, any other areas around, just reach out and we can arrange that for council, yourself and council.
That's right. We're at administrative report 4.1. Sorry, it's the agenda point 4.1, the administrative report 90.22, which is the procedures bylaw review. So I'll just ask staff to give a brief overview of this, and then we can decide where we want to go from there. Sure. Sure.
So the report was prepared as a bit of a discussion piece. Typically, following an election, newly elected councils take the opportunity to have a look at their processes and the way they approach their meetings. And your procedure bylaw is the way in which those are carried out through legislation. So this is that opportunity for you to kind of flesh out where you'd like to go in terms of order of business and the procedures within your meetings. And as we were reviewing our existing procedure bylaw, which most of you who've come again for another term will know that the ink has barely been dry before we hit that thing again, I think, with an amendment in the last couple of years. But nonetheless, the way that meetings have been conducted is not necessarily consistent with how the bylaw was written. So there's a great opportunity here for you to determine as a group how you'd like to carry on your meetings moving forward, and potentially look at some amendments to reflect that, I think. And then make it something that you can all get behind to follow in the years to come. So I think you have some comments as well, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. So the procedures bylaw is pretty important to what it is that we do. If you notice, I think y'all got a copy of it, or you had access, a link to it. Regional Council Procedure Bylaw number 1, 2009. Tells you how important that this procedure bylaw, well, it was the first bylaw that the new municipality really put together. And it's a document that really helps us define how our business will take place between each other at meetings. You can agree on it while you're all still friends, right? Because there are some councils, and both councillors and the mayor, it can go sideways. And this allows the chair, whoever that happens to be, mayor, acting mayor, or if you're at one of the committees, whoever the presiding member is, to keep control. And it's important from that perspective, and the courts will use it in the event that there's a problem. And I'll draw the example of the community just south of Dawson Creek that had considerable issues with their mayor, and they made some administrative moves that were challenged in court, and they lost, not because the activities of the mayor were seen by the court as proper, but because the procedures bylaw were violated. And so those decisions by the council were set aside, and they had to do something different. So that can happen. And, I see from, watching the meetings on YouTube over the last 18 or 19 months and then when I reflected on the procedures bylaw, when I got my election package, that doesn't seem to jive. And so you can, over time, if you're not looking after it or following it, then you end up getting into practices that are common practice that may not follow the procedures bylaw. And I think maybe some of that happened over the years. From staff's perspective, I think it helps them to keep track of the meeting. helps them to understand approximately how much time it takes a meeting to get through and finish, if they know how much time anybody has to speak. I mean, there's a very specific section that most of us as elected officials would probably take offense to, and that's the section that talks about limiting discussion, right? That's something that normally as elected officials you wouldn't even consider. But there is a whole section here, section 25, I think, no, 26, conduct of 820s. I just wanted to read it because I just can't, I should have highlighted it. But it's specifically to deal with limiting discussion, right? And you can see that if the council was losing control with that you need to be able to bring it back. But on the other side of it, it also limits the amount of time we can talk about any particular thing. So there are a bunch of little things in this procedure bylaw that I saw that I think we should be talking about. I don't know that we have time to talk about each and every one of them tonight. I would like to talk a little bit about the committee of the whole meeting, which is in the bylaw already, and to me is a meeting that could be used to deal with the discussion, to have that full discussion that your regular council meetings or special council meetings might limit. I mean, I guess there's a couple of ways to do it. You can change the procedures bylaw to allow you to talk more, right? You can do that, or you can use the provisions of the committee of the whole to expand the amount of discussion that you may or may not want to have. The procedure bylaw is intended to be enforced. There is sections in there that talk about if a councillor is not following, then they can be removed from the meeting. So it is intended to be enforced because of the provisions that it puts in there. So I just wanted to say those basic things before we started having a discussion. Please, Councillor Gurley.
So I haven't got through the whole bylaw yet, but I think the way we've been operating for the most part has worked in most instances. I did have somebody contact me to say their concern about committee as a whole used for discussion, and then you go back into the council meeting and you make the decision. They didn't necessarily want to watch two meetings. So they didn't want to watch the discussion at the committee of the whole meeting and then watching the council meeting for the ultimate discussion. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think the one thing I did like is that sometimes we will be having our discussions and points will be brought up that I haven't thought about. And I would appreciate some time, added time, to be able to give it more thought before I needed to make a decision, but then it's on the agenda for decision, right? So that's where committee of a whole meeting would be helpful, but I also don't want to add more meetings to my plate either.
From what I've seen, you're using your special meetings as committee of the whole meetings, right? You've been on a Wednesday afternoon or a Wednesday lunchtime, you've determined to have a special council meeting. You've got an agenda that's got just a couple of topics on it, and away you go for an hour while you're having lunch. I mean, I see the committee of the whole meeting as an opportunity to reduce those numbers of meetings. So I don't think it would be a committee of the whole wouldn't be on top of all of those special meetings. I think that it would replace most of them. Give you that opportunity for sober second thought between the time you've heard the information. The other thing that it will do, and I'll ask the staff to give their perspective, but one of the things it will help to do is focus the staff. So a topic is introduced that hasn't been taught before. there's some debate on it about which way, staff needs to do research. And there's not much sense in staff going off and researching everything if there's a good part of it that the council's not even prepared to sort of accept or go down that path. And so that saves staff an awful lot of time as well. But I'll ask the CAO if he's got any ideas or thoughts with respect to that.
Thanks, Mayor. So lots of thoughts, lots of thoughts been put into this in discussion, because it's something as an organization that's not been utilized, even though it's been the procedure bylaw. And I've reached out to other organizations, and we also talked internally about how we do things and how we operate as an organization. And one of the things that, we focused on, I think, this previous council, and when I took on this role, we really wanted to provide factual documentation for council to make informed decisions. Take opinion out of it, make sure that as staff are unbiased, we provide you with the best information possible to make a decision. But sometimes we need some guidance or direction in terms of which way council wishes to go. And I'll use the READY program as an example, or previous zoning bylaw updates, where sometimes it's good to come and have a discussion with council to get some guidance and listen to the dialogue. And it's a little bit less formal. It allows for more open discussion, which is what we've typically reserved the special meetings for. We'll sit and, if it's Jaylene or one of the directors will say, I got this to go on the agenda. I'm like, ooh, this is either it's a hot topic or it's something that's going to potentially bog down the meeting. Let's discuss it at 5 o'clock or have a 5:30, see if council's available for a 5:30 meeting so we can have that dialogue versus having that occur in the regular meeting, because it typically can bog down that meeting. And when we discuss the opportunities of committee of the whole, and talking with the mayor and reaching out to other organizations, we look at, the intent of it's not to create this, to have a decision made. It's to have dialogue around areas. So it's a great place for information documents or for information reports. Lengthy discussions on the BCUC that occurred like a couple of weeks ago, or Caribou discussions where that dialogue occurs, and it can really bog down a meeting. And by the end of a meeting, and we've seen it with council, we're that way with staff. We spent 5 hours plus in these chambers two Mondays ago, and by the end, it's the mayor's like a decision by exhaustion. Consensus by exhaustion. So when we look at it, we think there's some great opportunities. There's some right ways, I would suggest, and wrong ways. I mean, in the past, when I've gone to CIO forums or training, when you talk about community of the whole, some of the challenges have been, especially prior to the digital era, has been the perception that discussions happen behind the curtain. Yeah, right. Yeah. Today, those mean, especially organizations that are doing it right, it's still an open meeting. It's still a stream meeting. There's still transparency. The other piece is you don't want to go into a meeting, say if it's ahead of your regular meeting, you don't want to have a discussion in the committee of the whole and then go right into a meeting and have a decision, because sometimes the perception could be the decision's already been made. It just hasn't occurred. It's at, as the mayor said, it's at that opportunity to chew on a various item, right? And we've seen it, like I said, when I talk about the zoning bylaw or the READY program, as staff, sometimes we think we get it right. We come in with a document and we say, what do you think? And like, oh no, right? and we do a timeout. And like, I think Jamie answered that time. How did we get it so wrong? Right?
Yes.
And what we've yeah, it's like, okay,
Obviously, you guys have all been there. You know exactly.
So our approach has changed a bit, where it's like, let's not try to figure out what council's thinking. Let's listen to what they're thinking and then bring that document back. And a lot of times that's what that's for too. It's to have that dialogue and discussion so that we can bring that report back to council when it comes decision time. Council might make a recommendation to staff, bring a report back, and we'll have a bit of an idea of the flavor and the mood and where that dialogue has occurred. And that report can reflect that, from minutes from that meeting. Because I mean, besides less formalities, everything's still transparent. It's still recorded. Minutes are still maintained and whatnot. It's just a different It's just a different forum, it's a different venue. And what it also allows us to do, and we've actually gotten a little excited about it internally when we talk about it, because then the regular meeting becomes a little bit more formal, but a little bit more guided, right? So it allows council to get down to business, to have those discussions, make decisions. And if they need to get into a lengthy discussion, that's already occurred. Where sometimes, and I'll pick on you, Councillor Grewing, because you've made comments before and you've made it excited. Sometimes you need an opportunity. It's that first heard deferred piece is when delegations come forward, requests come out of the blue, when golf course committee or executive come and have a conversation with council, you don't feel obligated to make that decision right there. It's an opportunity to listen to the information, absorb it, chat amongst council, and then 2 weeks later, minimally for whatever that would be, then you can make that decision, right? And the nice thing is you can't make a decision in the community of the whole, so you don't feel obligated to make one, right? So we've talked about it. It's a change. If council wishes to do it, of course. But when we look at it, and again, the procedure bylaw is just that it needs to be owned by council. I mean, it's your procedures, right? If you want less formality in a council meeting, then the document should reference that, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that's where we're going to get to here tonight.
And one of the things I myself and Mary suggested myself and Jane chatted with the mayor earlier this week is maybe an opportunity is that meeting in January could be a committee of the whole meeting that reviews the procedure bylaw, because that's a perfect place to have that discussion, not bogged down a regular, and start framing and crafting that to make a decision at a future meeting to adopt that bylaw, right? So anyway, that's my thoughts, but I think it creates some bookends, some boundaries, and some processes in terms of what's a procedure bylaw. So on how to operate in a regular meeting. I think it could potentially create some efficiency in that regular meeting, because we've all been here late in the evening and been tired a little bit, and the opportunity for council to have that informal dialogue, I'll say, where they can chat more about an item, staff can chime in or whatnot is required. I think it's something that really is welcomed by this council and previous councils, but as the mayor said, the procedure bylaw it's not aligned with the current procedure bylaw. So it's either way, if there's a combination probably of both. Shift the bylaw a bit to accommodate what council wants as a whole.
Yeah, the way you
follow it, which is, I think it's an opportunity to crack it open in a new council, and then possibly look at some different venues to accommodate and to look after some of the the desires of council too as part of that dialogue. So,
and I think it will help with, anytime you're live streaming, it's difficult to play the devil's advocate, right? You might have a bunch of ideas, but you also see the other side of it. And so you bring out that sort of negative side, even though you really don't believe it, but you just want to stir the conversation. You want to stir the pot. Sometimes that makes for a good discussion. But if you only get ever a short period of time and you're live streaming, people out there look at it and you know what they said, but you're able to respond and say that was at a committee of the whole meeting, and I was really arguing the devil's advocate there, and they can look back and see, that's the way they've been doing their business. They get that opportunity to really hash things out, and somebody can play the devil's advocate if they choose without fear of repercussion from live streaming the event, and everybody's hanging on your every word and expect that that's the way you believe in everything. Sometimes some people will take the devil's advocate role and feel comfortable and just try to flush out the information. So that's the last thing I'll say with respect to my thoughts. I'm certainly interested in what you guys might have to say. Please.
I think it's a great idea. But one of the things I have that I'd like to see implemented is the request that come to the table. So if it's a financial request to the council to make a decision for money or grants in aid or whatever it is that there's a financial statement that comes with it, not just a request. Like, I think if we're dealing with money or finances, it should be supported by a good financial plan and a marketing plan, communication plan, or whatever the plan is for whatever organization. But I like making decisions with all the information in front of me, not wondering, did they build a financial plan and do they have enough money to operate for the whole year, even though they get this 25,000 or whatever it is. But I think the financial statements need to be part of the council package so we can review it. Yes, they have a solid plan. There's no problem with issuing the money.
If I may, thank you, Mary. And that's a very good point. And I think another, when we refine that process, and we'll pick on Committee X that come in and ask for funding, we can absolutely do that. But at the same time, anyone can come to this table and request money from council, right? When a delegation requests to meet in front of council, meet with council, they can come at any given time with hat in hand and say, can you give us money? The nice thing with doing something, those delegations, if this, based on discussions moving forward, when you look at potential committee in a whole, what that allows to do though is at the same time is if there isn't adequate information, no matter what that is, right? Financial statements, balance sheets, or anything else that council they need to make a decision. The nice thing is, again, there's no obligation to make. At any time, there's no obligation to council to make a decision. As I've always said to councils previously, it's first heard, deferred, right? So don't feel obligated. But sometimes there is that feeling that there's an obligation to make it in a meeting. And the nice thing with, someone comes hat in hand and say, we would like to have X, please. And if the documentation, whatever that might be, even if it's financial, or if financial or whatnot, isn't there, or if enough information isn't provided to council to make an informed decision, at another meeting, then that's a good opportunity to have a dialogue and say, I'd like to see more of X. I can't make a decision on a future council meeting with this. Staff, could you please request this information, or can you please provide this? Sometimes it's provided a staff report to go through that even information and provide recommendations, right? So, yeah.
I would just offer, so council also has a petitions and delegations policy, which frames your expectations around what that delegation or petition needs to be aware of or follow when they're in front of you. And there's always an opportunity to amend that if you have new expectations, for example, for anyone that would like to present. So we don't screen any requests for petitions or delegations. It's simply they ask, and as long as it's in advance of the agenda being published, they're welcome to present to you. So if there's other guidelines that council would like to see integrated to that, it can be amended at any time to reflect that.
Good. So if the delegation felt they needed more than 15 minutes, then you could ask them if they wanted to schedule into a committee of the whole. And if they think they can get it done in 15 minutes and it's a first heard deferred thing, then we can do that as well. So, Councillor Schultz, please.
I'm neither hot nor cold for this idea. I actually think it has potential. I certainly do. But what I would frame my answer to that is on the idea of communication, and the more of it that we have, the more open we are and more transparent, and the more angles we cover on any given topic, the better I like it, because then we both sharpen each other's wits and we learn information that we didn't have, or we present information that others don't have. And I think there's great value in that. I recall a very early frustration that I had in my very first council, and that was where we would be sitting around the table and we would have limited discussion on any given topic, and then we would have a vote. And there were people that would vote against a motion or something, but you'd never know why. You'd never have an idea why, and they wouldn't say. And I thought, okay, and part of it, I think I attribute to the format, where the format prevented the openness from happening. There's always other reasons too, but so I am definitely in favor of it if it brings out more communication, more openness.
Thank you. Councillor Roper?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that we shouldn't make any decisions until we have all the information available. And I did speak to those committee of the whole meetings earlier on in the term, and I feel that if we have a discussion and people are engaged in that discussion, and then we have overnight to think about it, well, maybe they have some more information for us the next day. Maybe I'm wrong about something where I thought I was right. And that's a great opportunity to really process that information and to get more as much as we can before that final decision is made. So yeah, I'm not opposed to it at all. It was something that I brought up and I didn't pursue, but I'm certainly happy that we're evolving as a council, and with new members, we're always looking at our procedures and policies. And I think this would be a great addition to an already great council.
Thank you. Councillor Gomes, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
Can I say one other thing? It's just the flips.
Yeah, no, we're supposed to.
Yes. Point taken.
We gotta fix that.
Point taken. The thing that I fear with a community of whole is that because you have your discussion, and you might actually have a very good discussion where it's pretty clear what the decision will be when the time comes around. And so the communication of the community of whole has to be just as transparent as the council meeting itself. Otherwise, you will be accused of making decisions behind closed doors.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just going to offer, so not only great point, Councillor Souls and Councillor Gerwing, you alluded to the person that made comment to you that it seems like a duplication, or it might be onerous to try to watch more meetings. And that was one of the pieces of feedback of staff internally was, oh my gosh, is this going to be more work? And I think the most important thing is to keep that continuity of where discussion happens, and then where the recommendation flows through to a council meeting and a decision's being made. So I think over time, our minutes and our reports have vastly improved in pointing back to where council's heard that information before, where there's been a report prepared prior, or where decisions have been made in the past. And this is another opportunity where if there's a decision at the council table in a regular meeting, following a recommendation from committee of the whole, it's just creating that continuity to demonstrate that this is the lifespan of that piece of information or that decision from its point of discussion to now its point of decision being rendered. So yeah, and I think that'll allow it to be easier for people to follow in the public of what's happened at a committee of the whole to then its outcome at the council table and its decision, and also for staff and preparing that information for council in its various forms is to be able to link to where it's taken various forms, I guess, in front of council.
Yes, please.
So then, okay, so that helps me to understand. So a committee of a whole, there could be a recommendation made so that at the council meeting, a person wouldn't have to pretend to have the entire discussion again.
Correct.
The agenda would say that this was a recommendation, and then you would be linked to that discussion. So if the person that was interested could actually just click on the link and listen to that part of it, not the whole whatever. Okay, I get it. Yeah, okay, that's good. And then that makes total sense to me. And then just to the point of, in the meantime, we would like to review the procedure bylaw, but maybe not follow it, because I don't know if I can only talk once on a topic.
Yeah. So I appreciate that point. So I'll do my best to keep us online. At the end of this report, the corporate manager has made a suggestion that if we're going to consider the committee of the whole process, that we really look at part 7 of the procedure bylaw, which lays out that whole. But going through it, we recognize there's enough, to your point, there's enough other things in the procedure bylaw that we should really just tear the Band-Aid off and look at the whole thing. And so, I wasn't sure how long we were going to have tonight, and I certainly didn't want to go line by line through that. But if council is amiable, I think we should allow staff to have a first kick at it. And if there's anything obvious, if you get the opportunity to read through it and there's anything obvious, let staff know, and they'll include that in some way, or at least a discussion of it, right? In when the bylaw does come forward. And if you're okay, that's the first step. That's the first committee of the whole agenda item will be the procedures bylaw in January. General consensus, everybody's all right with that? Good, then that is the way we'll proceed. If that's good enough, do you need a resolution or is direction good enough? Okay. So there is one thing that I think I would like to bring up right now because we're kind of looking at the hospital board and there's a section there that talks about the hospital board actually electing their own chairperson. This procedure bylaw says the mayor, acting mayor will be, and I know we're pulling that out and putting that in. So, so just that we can highlight that. That's something we hadn't talked about before. I just picked it up there when I was reading through it again tonight. Okay.
Sorry for clarification.
Yeah.
So you would like the procedure bylaw for the hospital district to elect their own chair, or would you like it to
I'd like that discussion
to
because
occur? Oh,
it's talking with my hands again. It's because the last report that we had and the actual procedures bylaw are in conflict with each other. And so I'd like that to have that discussion and staff's input when they bring that up, when you bring the hospital district bylaw forward. Yeah, thank you for keeping me straight on that. Thank you, Councilor Garland. So that'll hold that for now. Thank you. I'm still on the floor while we finish the rest of the meeting because we're just about done. So I think that's everything. Was there anything else that staff had? No?
just in terms of committee of the whole. So, and maybe you were going to speak to it just around the frequency and timing.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess that's open for discussion if depending on what's on the agenda and how much time, I guess I just want to throw it out to all of you to have a discussion about, is it an hour? Is it an hour and a half? Is it every other Monday? Is it Mondays before? Just, there's lots of options there, I guess. Thoughts, please, Councillor Roper.
I just want to make sure that everyone can be involved. So if you have someone miss the committee of the whole and then show up the next day, I mean, even if they watch the previous conversations, they still didn't have that involvement. So I feel it's really important that we come up with something that works for everybody most of the time. I wouldn't want to see anyone left out. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. But sometimes that's difficult, and that's what the quorum rules are all about, right? But Councillor Growing, please.
I think that's why I kind of like Mondays, because I mean, we've all got it in our agendas. It's every other or the second and the fourth Monday or whatever. But typically we've blocked out that Monday, right? Because you're not planning a whole lot because you know it could be council meeting or whatever. So Mondays might be a good day, just given that that's the second and the fourth is our regular meeting day anyways.
Just clarification, do you mean the Monday before the regular council meeting?
No, I just meant Mondays. Like if we are looking for one specific time for committee of the whole meeting, Mondays might be a good day to look at just because we have. I'm not really interested in having a committee of the whole meeting previous to the council meeting and then go into that council meeting, right? Like I would like to have it and then have that time to think about whatever we've been discussing. So maybe it'll be the Monday before the council meeting and then that makes the agenda, or we might even discuss stuff that doesn't get to the agenda for 2 or 3 council meetings, right? It's not necessarily just what we are immediately talking about, if I'm understanding it correctly, right?
Yeah, just so the intent would be, say if it was a Monday of a council meeting, the intent wouldn't be to bring an item from a committee of the whole of that day into that night. Because most times a report needs to be generated to go to the meeting, to the regular council meeting.
Unless it was real time sensitive, you would not deal with it on the same day.
Yes.
And I'm not thinking of having committee of the whole on the same Monday that the council meeting is, but the alternate Mondays.
Okay.
Like if our council meeting's the 2nd and the 4th Mondays of every month, then if we were having committee of the whole, could be the 3rd Monday or the 1st and the 3rd if we needed that many. I don't know.
Only, and obviously not our decision, just the only thing when we chatted internally, well, A was length of meetings in terms of when they start and end and run of the day. But the other piece is one of the things that you have been used to on Mondays typically is we've typically started at 5 or 5:30 and had specials on Mondays, which that's a lot of those. I mean, unless a decision had to occur at a meeting outside of a regular meeting, the specials will be few and far between moving forward. Potentially, because it's only just to keep that in mind, because this previous council has been used to also when we've had a meeting start at 6:30 with no special beforehand, everyone walks in like, I'm not used to not being here before 6:30, right? So yes, exactly, right. So just something to consider also, because the only time really now you'll have a special outside of a regular is when a decision needs to be made outside of a regular meeting. In theory, because all others, I mean, if it's a delegation, that's longer than 15 minutes. Typically, that's gone to a special meeting if it's noon or whatnot. Most times, delegations come forward, or it's an update from industry or whatnot. It's no decision being made, so that would be a committee of the whole. So just to keep in mind that piece too when you talk frequency or what day of the week is the Mondays where we've usually put that slot away from 5 to 6:30. And the only change we've had with that basically is, which is I think has been a worthwhile change, is we do a hard stop now. We've been trying to do a hard stop at 6 o'clock, so that there's a break in between the special and the regular, and also time to hydrate and replenish some foods.
Councillor Schultz.
The concept of having 2 council meetings per month is something that we've had for a very long time. That's the official narrative. It's never been real, but it's always been the official narrative. And now we're talking 4 council meetings per month as the official narrative. And I personally live 20 minutes from town, and I don't like adding another layer of it. But at the same time, that's where I live, and I'm on council, and I knew I lived there when I put my hat in the ring, of course. So as you had just commented, and how our meetings have our special meetings and our council meetings have piggybacked on each other, or have time from a time perspective, I can see committee of the whole resulting overall in a much shorter council meeting. So why don't we move our council meetings forward and have our committee of the whole for the following council on the same evening, only in reverse order? So that we have our regular council meeting, which covers what was in our community of the whole from the previous week. And then after our council meeting, we have a community of whole meeting regarding the next week. See, I'm just only looking at it from an time efficiency perspective, but I don't know if that makes sense or not, because there's the reports that will come out of the official meeting that need to be in the community of whole meeting that happens up.
Because occasionally you'll come across an item that's time sensitive. And you will want to take it from the committee of the whole directly into the very next. It's few and far between. Usually, my experience has been because it's for some reason it's come up and it's time sensitive since the last series of meetings, and so you need to make a decision, and it's complicated, and you want to talk about it. My experience has been that we had a committee of the whole meeting 1 hour before our regular meeting, and we found that our regular meetings went from being 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock sometimes, till 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And that was our experience anyways, is that we were spending an awful lot of time in the regular council meeting talking about things and debating them, and every little thing sort of went into a fairly big discussion. Well, once we started identifying, and staff then got in sync with council, what type of topics tended to be a lot of discussion around, they started adding those and bringing forward the reports, and we'd spend an hour. And then we'd spend half an hour, 15 minutes eating, and then we'd get right into the regular council meeting. We saw that our council meetings shrunk up considerably by adding that hour in advance. I mean, we've been 2 hours here, but staff felt they needed 2 hours in advance of these meetings in order to help us understand the operations. I wouldn't want to go more than an hour, I think, if we're going to do it on the same night. So we'd start, and from my perspective, I think if we started at 5, did a committee of the whole meeting, then 8, and then went into your regular meeting, that's my experience that works. And if you start to get sort of these compounded topics that you can't deal with in an hour in the front of it, then you add the third Monday or we're already, no, first or third Monday, you could add a committee of the whole in. Councilor Gerwing.
So are you talking about, so we're at a 5 o'clock council meeting, committee of the whole.
Correct.
To deal with agenda business that is going to be taking place at the regular council meeting at 6:30?
Only if it's time sensitive.
Only if it's time.
Most things would never be that time sensitive.
So the discussion items, the committee of the whole meeting at 5 p.m. would be dealing with agenda items that would appear on future regular council.
Correct.
Not, okay, I'm with
Correct.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's good to point out too, that not everything goes to committee of the whole.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. well,
So there will be agenda items, and reports that will go directly to a council meeting.
yeah.
It's the ones that, well, information reports are good ones that would go to a committee of the whole, delegations go to committee of the whole. But items that require a significant amount of dialogue with council, right? We've been making those judgment decisions today for specials. If we do a
Right.
noon special or whatnot, because we know that this is just too much information for council to have a discussion at a regular, doesn't it bog down the regular. So there will be items that are relatively straightforward, within report, recommendation, that would be a decision of council that will go directly to a council meeting, a regular council meeting. I was just certain, and I think that'll be part of that procedure discussion too, is what items would council want to see and how do you make a determination also?
Yeah.
And the other component is at any given time, there might be times when a committee of the whole meeting is scheduled where we do a doodle poll because there's a time sensitive discussion that needs to happen. That
An important delegation that comes to town and they can't meet any other time except Wednesday at 2 because they're in town and they're leaving.
or a lengthy discussion happens between 5 and 6, if that is a time, for example, where council says, we'd like to continue this before the next committee of the whole meeting. And you might agree on a time outside. They might say, hey, is everyone available at Friday at lunch or something like that?
Right. And all the rules of notification so that the
Are
public
still in
knows
place.
all those rules still apply. So making sure that there's at least 24 hours, making sure there's an agenda if it's a called meeting. Throw a little bit of a curveball at you a little bit. You can actually go into the committee of the whole at any time during a regular meeting as well. If you felt that you wanted to open up the discussion beyond sort of the rules of the procedures bylaw, that happens very, very rarely, but it can happen. It's the same, like you can go in camera at any time. You're having a discussion about something and all of a sudden one of the 3Ls sort of pops up into the discussion. Oh, hold it a sec. We've got to go in camera if we're going to talk about this any further. And you do that for the short length of time and then back out into the regular meeting. You got to clear the room and do everything that you have to do with that. But you can do it in the middle of a regular meeting. It just doesn't happen very often. I can probably count on one hand in 8 years how often it's happened to me. So, and that's at regional district and council. Council Dickey.
Okay, I think we've determined that we're going to discuss this
Okay,
in
yes.
January.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we've got a time. I think that was your question. We'll start at 5 o'clock. We'll go to 6 o'clock. The first agenda item for the first committee of the whole meeting will be the procedures bylaw for us to hash it out and talk it out. And I think we're good. Adjournment is in order. Moved by Councillor Roper. Yeah. Second by Councillor Growing. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We'll start at 6:30.